a coach on our team. She is also a registered dietitian, which means she has all the good details on food.
All right, so we have Courtney joining us, and she is eatwell.bewell for those of you who want to follow her. There we go. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
Excellent. So I'm excited for this topic. I know it's one you and I have chatted about a couple of times. Um, there's so many places to start. So let's start with this one. I know a number of runners, especially as we head into summer, struggle with the same thing I do is I am so hot or fatigued after a long run that I don't feel like eating. And so a lot of the times then we do this like, save some calories for later thing.
Yeah,
But I know there's all kinds of things that are going wrong with that.
absolutely. And so, they really say you have about a 30-minute window to get that post-run recovery in. You have a little bit more time than that, but ideally, certainly within the first hour or so is ideal to get in both carbs and protein. And if you're not feeling like eating, I get it. I hear you. It's because your core body temperature is higher and your appetite is suppressed. Your appetite hormone is actually suppressed. So the best bet is an ice cold smoothie that's going to help lower your core body temperature, help you get in your nutrition and rehydrate. And you can drink it even while you're in the shower or while you're, stretching and doing your
I literally do that. I take my smoothie up to the shower, scrubbing and drinking to make myself do it.
see, there you go. Multitasking. Runners
Yes.
are
I love the point that Stacy Sims makes too for those of us who are worried about hormones, especially as we end up in that menopause stage. There's now all this research kind of showing that if you're not wanting to lose muscle mass for women, that 30-minute-ish window becomes extra important after workouts.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you made the point earlier, like, oh, well, this is great. I'm not hungry. I'll just save some calories. Well, really what's happening is you're getting more muscle breakdown and actually more fat storage because your body is in this famine state. It's afraid to let go of, anything. So, we don't want to be breaking down muscle and holding on to fat. That's not why we're working out.
Yes. Oh, see, I love it when people just say things in a little different way because I know for a lot of people that was an aha, like, wait a second, by not eating, I'm actually making it harder for me to hit my weight loss goals.
Absolutely. And like I said, and then you're not getting the muscle repair and so it really is, you get a much bigger bang for your buck when you time that nutrition appropriately, both before and certainly after.
Yes, huge fan of the pre-run nutrition, but we'll save that. Um, so what other drawbacks if we don't eat right away and we kind of tell ourselves, I'll get to it later?
Yeah. So what you're going to find for sure, other than we talked about the muscle breakdown, the fat storage, delayed, recovery, but you're going to be so hungry later in the day. Like if you wait, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks a few hours later, and you're going to feel so ravenous, like that bottomless pit feeling. I'm sure you guys all know what I'm talking about, but so like I said, better off just hitting it right in the beginning. And then that can really help keep off that hunger later.
I'm also all about having a plan. So I even posted like in stories this morning, I've started making my smoothie before I go run
Yeah.
because otherwise, yes, I will come home and I'm kind of like, I need to get showered, I need to get working. So having a plan.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what? Honestly, you can make a big batch of smoothies, save them in like smaller mason jars, and keep them in the freezer. And before you go run, pull them out, and then you have like a real like slushy when you get back. It's so good.
Yes, perfect. I do the same thing with like overnight oats, basically. I
Yeah,
have a whole container. So like if I'm ready to eat and I don't want to do a smoothie, that oatmeal is there.
I love that. Yeah, we're both my husband and I do overnight oats. We're like, I got him on the kick too. It's so good, and you can eat them cold or warm, so depending on how your body's feeling.
If you're having oats after your run, are there certain things that you really like to see incorporated in them?
Yeah, definitely. So oats, you got your carbs. So that's great. We need carbohydrates after we run, but we certainly need protein. So I do put a little bit of protein powder in my oatmeal. You could do it on the side. You don't need protein powder. You could do a nut butter. You could do, chopped nuts or like a little bit of trail mix. That's my favorite when we're camping is a little trail mix in the oatmeal. Or you can even do a side of like a hard boiled egg or scrambled eggs. But, certainly adding in a healthy fat and a protein, flax seeds and chia seeds, hemp seeds work really well as oatmeal toppers as well.
I have some chia seeds in mine, but I can only do like a little bit. There's a texture thing for me.
Well, it makes it very gel-like. So if you're adding it to your oatmeal, it will change it. Flax seeds, on the other hand, I feel like, especially ground flax seeds, really don't have that same gel-like effect. It does kind of bind the oatmeal a little bit more, but not as bad as chia seeds.
Yes. Does it matter how long or how intense your workout was in terms of what you do for post-run nutrition?
Oh, that's a really good question. So certainly the longer, the harder the workout, the more important it is. But that's not to dismiss, like, I think runners get to the point where like our calibrator or calibration becomes to be a little off where we're like, oh, well, it was only 5 miles. Like, well, it was still 5 miles. Like, that's still pretty far. So you should still have something. It's just that if you're not going as long or as hard, maybe that something is just breakfast or, is your next meal, assuming that next meal is going to be soon after your run. If it's a hard run or a long run, then you're better off having that like smoothie or snack and then your meal. So kind of having almost like 2 separate forms of nutrition coming in there.
I like eating twice. This is my favorite kind of advice.
Me too. And it's like, and that's the other thing, for us runners, it's like, it's normal to be hungry 2 hours after you finish your meal. Don't think something's wrong with you. That is completely normal, and don't fight that hunger urge.
Yes. Which actually, so that's, you said it perfectly. The other thing that I think I struggle with that other runners struggle with is this idea of trying to eat intuitively, but needing to fuel. So here I am throughout, really and truly, I think the issue for me is heavy in the summer. I'm not hungry. And so I feel like I'm supposed to be eating, but I'm not. And then like, but am I overriding hunger signals? So how do you like work through that?
Oh, that is such a great question. And for those of you that know me, I love intuitive eating, but you're exactly right. Sometimes as athletes, we have to override the intuitive eating principles. And so I always picture it as like, if you guys think back to school, a Venn diagram, right? You have intuitive eating on one side and sports nutrition science on the other, which is like timing your meals and getting in enough calories and enough nutrients. And there has to be some crossover there. So we have to meet in the middle. So there are going to be times where I need you to listen to your hunger. It might not make sense. It's rest day. And for some reason you're hungry, you got to eat. You got to listen to your body. But there's other times where you're not going to be hungry and you have to be thinking, I ran a lot of miles today and I need to replenish. I know I'm not hungry, but I know I need this. And I'm going to get this in form of a smoothie or, in something easy, something light, or just like before you run. I have a lot of runners I coach who run at 5 in the morning. Yeah, you're probably not hungry at 5, but that's where that sports nutrition science piece has to come in and override of like, I might not be hungry, but I know that I need this for my training.
Yeah. We're going to talk about a few other things, everyone, but if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them. We will watch for them. Yeah. What's interesting, I think, that I realized is when I would sort of follow the intuitive and, okay, I'm not hungry, so I won't eat as much. It doesn't catch up to you like the next day or even the day after that. It's almost like a week, 2 weeks later that your body's like, listen, like this is not working. I want more fuel. And so that's where I think we can so easily get into that trap because we don't think we're seeing a downside.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Or sometimes like you start to just deny those hunger cues altogether and your body actually stops calling you. I think of it as like a relationship with your friend. If you always call your friend and she picks up, you're going to stop calling her. And same thing with your body. And sometimes it leads to injury. And that's when we're like, oh, I was maybe under fueling. And it takes a little while, like you said, for it to catch up. That's exactly right.
Oh, that's such a good way of thinking about it too. I think the other tip that sort of worked for me was getting that brain reframed and thinking of higher calorie foods. So more nuts, more nut butters, oils on vegetables or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can just like add something in, or, you don't have to change everything that you're eating. Sometimes it's a little bit bigger portion, or like you said, just topping it with some seeds or some nut butter. Like that can get you, 100 extra calories without even thinking about it, which is ultimately a good thing.
Yeah. Do you have like favorite post-run nutrition like meals? Like this would be like in an ideal world, here's what you would eat after your long run.
Well, so I mentioned the smoothie. That is by far my favorite, like immediately after. But so many people are like, oh, it's just protein powder and water. Like that ain't gonna cut it. So it's gotta be, if you're gonna do protein powder with like peanut butter, banana, fruit, but at least 2, 3 cups of fruit, or an equivalent to, and then your protein source. So that's my go-to smoothie. And you can always add to that if you want to add some spinach, go for it. But and then in a perfect world, my favorite is, I just love an omelet with toast or a bagel. Like that is my favorite. And I am spoiled. My husband doesn't cook often, but breakfast is his go-to. And so he'll sometimes make me a nice omelet when I'm out running, and I come back to toast and omelet, and that is like, and some chocolate milk. That's the best.
Oh, I love it. I miss eggs. They don't like me, but I love them.
I know. That's so tough. And I mean, I do a lot of athletes who are vegan, and so I get it. Eggs are just such a beautiful thing to eat in the morning, especially after you run. They just have that protein that you need. But we can work around that. Like you had mentioned, you've got your nut butter. We can do some protein powder. We could do Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. There's a lot of other options. So don't feel like you have to eat eggs.
Yeah, that's a good tip. So
Yeah.
many good tips, you guys. Okay, I don't think I've seen any specific questions yet. I always want to make sure I'm not missing any of those. Anything else that I haven't thought to ask about like the post-run nutrition?
Well, I alluded to it a little bit earlier, that it's not just about the protein, that we need carbs. But, one way that I always try to explain post-run nutrition is, think of it as the 3 Rs. You need to replenish your muscle glycogen stores, which is really just a fancy way of saying you need some carbohydrates to store in your muscles. And so we want to replenish, repair with protein. So repair our muscles, and rehydrate. So we can't skip the rehydrating piece of it. So make sure you've got all 3 of those. Otherwise, you're not quite hitting the nail on the head there.
Oh, that's a really good tip, because I don't think we always think as much about the hydration piece. Like we think about it maybe before and later in the day, but you're right after everything is drained. So we need to give it back.
And being that hydration that you're taking in, that's going to help deliver those nutrients to where they need to go. So being, hydrating right after you run, or rehydrating, I should say, super important, especially as we're coming into, warmer weather, and, our body has to acclimate to that.
Yeah, that makes it easy to remember too. I like alliterations like that. Yeah. I think alliteration is the right word. So for anyone who is not following Cortney yet, like I said, you can find her at eatwell.bewell. She is a coach on our team, which I'm so excited about. And you have a new course out too, right?
I do, yeah. So it's called Fuel Like a Runner. It's all asynchronous, self-paced, and there's 5 modules. It doesn't take you overly long to get through them all, but it's really designed to help any runner, whether you're a total newbie, couch to 5K kind of person, or an avid marathoner. We talk about everything from what to eat day to day, pre-run nutrition, fueling those long runs, proper hydration. So this in far more detail, and then nutrition for rest days, because I feel like that gets really confusing for people. So yeah, check that out. You can click the link in my bio to see that and see more of the details. And I just saw some questions pop up. Did you see that?
There are some questions. Yeah. Yes. And anyone in Virtual Run Club, we have a discount in there for you if you want to check out her course. But yes, let's answer some questions.
Definitely. Let's see. Oh, Leslie. Leslie's one of my running clients with you. She asked, how much water versus electrolyte drink after long run? So that's a really good question, Leslie. It depends more on your sweat rate, the heat, the humidity. If you weren't sweating a whole lot, just water will do just fine. However, electrolytes, like especially like a Noon electrolyte tablet, Personally, I like that just because it helps me get more water in. It reminds me to drink. I like all of a sudden will drink 20 ounces, you know, and you wouldn't do that with plain water. But the hotter or the more humid, the more you sweat, if you have a high sweat rate where you can like almost wring your shorts out, or you have that like sweat line, you know, like you can see the salt, then that's when you know you need some electrolytes. Or you can even just add a little bit more salt to your food, you know, in that meal after you run too.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of electrolytes, probably because I was having for years like muscle cramps and stuff, and I am a very heavy sweater. I was training in Florida, and it just, it stopped with that, but it helped even out some energy if I would sip it during the run too.
Yeah, definitely. And that's like carrying a water bottle, even if it's a shorter run, if it's hot, just sipping, because the goal of, you know, drinking during your run is really to just minimize your fluid loss. And so if we can keep you, and same thing even with nutrition during the run, if we can keep you from going into a hole with both nutrition and with hydration, you're going to recover so much faster. You're going to feel great later in the day.
Yeah, 100%. Second question.
After run. Let's see. So she says, if you get busy and you don't refuel right after the run, 2 hours later, is it still worthwhile, though not ideal to replenish proteins? So yes, you, even 2 hours after, you really, I mean, you're gonna be recovering all day long, really. Like your body is gonna be soaking up that nutrition for at least 24, even 48 hours later. The sooner the better, yes. So I would really practice making it a priority. And if you don't have time, then I hate to say this, but it might be time to maybe cut that run 5 minutes short, you know, so that you have time to, even if it's pour a glass of milk, or, you know, like I said, mix up a quick protein shake and have a banana. You know, don't make it harder than it needs to be, but, you know, just kind of check your priorities and put nutrition towards the top, because it's worth it, I promise.
Yeah, I would say like worst case, you truly have zero time. You're still going to need to drink something as your morning is going along. So like Previnex has Nourify, which is their meal replacement. So it's protein powder with tons of nutrients. So just have that and just keep drinking it right up until you can get in that actual meal. It's at least a decent option if you're truly not going to eat.
Yeah, and I just got some free samples from Previnex.
Oh, good.
I have to try that still, but it's on my to-do list this week.
Yeah, I like the ingredients in it. The flavor
Yeah.
for me is so, probably because I don't always love it when it has everything in it.
Yeah.
But as I've noticed with other proteins I've tried, you also adapt to the taste. And if it's going to help me, I will drink it.
That is very true. Okay, and somebody else asked how much water after running. And so again, it depends on the duration, your sweat rate. You know, aim for somewhere around 12 to 24 ounces after you run. It depends, you know, on, like I said, how far you ran, how much you sweat, but, you know, at least 12 ounces of water. And it doesn't have to be like walk in the door and just start chugging water, but you know, in that like hour or so post run, just make sure you're diligent about getting in, you know, at least 12 ounces of water.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is it essential to have proteins directly after the run, or is it okay to have them the next day? You want them immediately after you run. So that's when, think of your muscles like sponges. They are just looking for that nutrition. They are looking to just soak up those carbs and soak up those proteins, because that's what's going to really help repair those muscles. Remember, when we work out, we're tearing those muscles. That's part of working out. We're getting these little micro tears in the muscle, and the protein's going to like, think about like glue it back together, like put it right back where it should be. And that's how we really recover. Let's see. Are electrolytes like Noon worth it? Yes, absolutely. I totally love Noon, not paid or endorsed by them in any way. I just genuinely like them. Is the recovery plan for fuel dependent on 12K versus 22K run, changed volume type of food? Yes. And so Mandy and I talked about that a little bit in the beginning, or I guess midway through this, but the longer the run, the more important it's going to be. And the longer the run, the more nutrition you're going to need, both before and after. So, and that's not to say that 12 kilometers is not far. You still need that nutrition. It's just far more serious when you're running further, like 22K. Cool. Good questions, you guys. Somebody else asked products like Salt Stick versus Noon. best applications for use for one versus the other. I don't know. I hate to say I don't know a whole lot about Salt Stick. Do you know, Amanda?
I do. So when I lived in Miami, I used Salt Stick with an electrolyte, and that was largely, like I said, because I was a heavy sweater, and you can't run a mile there without wringing your shirt out. So it was just so intense. So I would use them for long runs in combination. So I would take like one before, and then I would sip electrolytes. They tend to be, I find, super useful on race day for a lot of people when it's much harder to maybe stay on top of your hydration during the race because it's just everything's going. You don't feel like taking in as much. So you can get just on top of your electrolytes ahead of time by taking in one of those tablets.
Okay. Is it just salt that's in there?
No, so it's potassium, magnesium, like low amount magnesium, and calcium in it, and vitamin D maybe.
Oh, okay. That's great. And it sounds like they're really quick to digest or quick to consume. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Because like you said, the Noon is great. But I mean, the instructions are to mix it in, like, I forget if it's like 16 ounces of water.
Yeah.
The water, like, so if I was going to drink a Noon, it would take me, if I was during a run, that would take me probably the whole run, really. So the Salt Stick sounds like it's a much more feasible way to get those electrolytes in when you're on the move or about to be on the move.
Yeah.
Very good question. And then the last one I see here is, how would you feel about a couple of spoonfuls of peanut butter until you get a full meal? I'm thinking about when I get back to the office. Yeah, I mean, like, that could work. You're missing the carbs, and there's not a lot of carbs in peanut butter. So I would say if you can do peanut butter and banana, that would be great, or peanut butter on crackers, or even peanut butter on toast. There's not a ton of protein in peanut butter, but it certainly is a start to your recovery. So that's an option. I still like how Amanda mentioned, like the Previnex meal replacement. And just to be clear, they call it a meal replacement. It is not a meal replacement. I would use it as like a snack replacement.
A snack, yes.
And so I even questioned that when I was talking on the phone with Previnex. I thought, I don't know about meal replacements, but so that would maybe be a better option. But certainly a spoonful of peanut butter is still better than nothing. And that's what I try to teach my athletes is it doesn't always have to be perfect. It just has to be better. As long as we're moving in the right direction and we're taking steps to improve nutrition, you're gonna feel a difference.
That is the best note to end on. Like, we're not trying for perfection, but we are trying to just keep making little steps so that we can feel better, so that we can train better.
Yeah, because when you are shooting for perfect, it just feels so overwhelming that you're like, I don't know, I just can't do this, and I'm just not going to do it at all. And like, that's not what we want. So small steps make a huge difference.
Yes, I love it. All right, everyone, great questions. Thanks for joining us. I will make sure this is available in IGTV unless Instagram does something weird.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Amanda.
Bye, everyone.